Hi, this is Jim Zeta. Welcome to The Productive Attorney, where we try and make things more efficient for you so you can enjoy the things that are outside of law. Today we're going to be talking about social media and the practice of law. I want to start, as I always do in my podcast, with a couple of war stories. Several years ago, and these are about social media, several years ago I went to a Texas Rangers baseball game and went with some friends, and one of the friends brought his teenage daughter and she brought a friend, and they were sitting in front of us during the game and they were on their phones as teenagers would want to be, and we were in the middle of that time where Myspace was more popular than Facebook. That's how far back this goes. And I remember asking the girls, hey, which do you think is better, MySpace or Facebook? And they both looked at me and rolled their eyes, as only teenage girls could do, and said, Facebook, of course. And not, of course, was not the answer. I didn't know that was the answer at that particular time. If you're out practicing law, you graduate at 25, you bust your butt for the first 5 years at 30, social media kind of passes you by because you're really in your own world at that particular time. 3 years of law school, 5 years of practicing law, and it really moves past you pretty quick. So the last 2 years in my class, most of my students are in their 20s. I've asked the same question: Facebook or Instagram, Facebook or Snapchat, Facebook or TikTok. And they all look at me and say, of course, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok are better than Facebook. I didn't know that. And when I ask them what they use Facebook for, they tell me they use Facebook to see what their parents and grandparents are doing. Just as I'm recording this, Facebook came out with its first time ever that they have less users than they did the previous month or the previous year before. So Facebook is in a situation right now where they're kind of going down, whereas when I asked those teenage girls back in the day, it was going up. So social media is something that you really have to keep your eye on. And so what are the social media areas that you can go into? Well, Facebook's still out there if that's your target audience. And so Facebook is something that you can go in and do Facebook ads. You can do pay-per-click. There's all sorts of things that you can do in Facebook that can try and increase business, and it still is an effective tool to be out there. I won't go into the nitty-gritty of how to do Facebook ads and how to monetize it right and do all that. That's for the experts. That's something that would take a couple hours to talk about to make sure you get everything just right. But that's out there. You've got Instagram, you've got Twitter, you've got LinkedIn, you've got YouTube. Those are all areas that are out there that are places where you can find information, and if you find the right way to get the information out, you can go ahead and advertise there if you want. Also, there's Pinterest, and and then you can get into social media where you do actually advertising. And so that advertising can go through Google, and you can do Google AdWords. I have done Google AdWords before, and they were effective. What I like about the Google AdWords is you can go ahead and do a budget. And so I wanted a few cases in the area of sexual harassment. There were cases out there that I think I knew. So I went and just did a $40 budget. I mean, practically nothing, to see if I could get some cases. And what happens is anytime anybody clicks on your ad, then that charges against your $40. And so you can go ahead and get a certain number of clicks, and then when the clicks are done, the ad just drops. It's not there anymore, so they don't charge you anymore. And so for that $40 a month, I was getting an average of 2 to 3 inquiries a month, and they were decent inquiries. So it was pretty good return on investment for that, and I was really kind of glad for that particular issue. So other places you can look in social media, and you look at it for advertising and marketing, but you can also look at it to try and help your case. You've got Yelp out there. Yelp's been an area that I've had a few reviews on. Occasionally I get an inquiry from them, but not great. Another area you can go on is Reddit. Ask Me Anything is out there, and you can go into Reddit, and you don't really advertise, but you can go in and let them know that you're an attorney and tell them what kind of work you do and answer some questions for people that are out there. An area that I think is marketing that's a lot of people don't know about is AVVO, AVVO. So AVVO is when every lawyer comes out, AVVO goes ahead and puts your profile on there. So if you've never heard of AVVO, go online, type in AVVO, and type in your name if you're an attorney. And you will see your name come up, and they will rate you typically starting out at somewhere between a 6 and a 7. They don't know you from anybody, but they're going to rate you at between a 6 and a 7. And so in order to get your rating up to a 10, which is what you want, if you've been practicing long enough, you can go ahead and get your rating up to a 10 relatively easily. You have to do some things, but you can, by do some things, I mean get some referrals from some friends, get some clients to put some referrals on there or recommendations on there, and you have to just show that you're qualified. And eventually you can get up to a 10. Now, if you want to go ahead and advertise on AVVO, then they'll let you do that. You can increase your rating. I've advertised on AVVO in terms of putting myself up higher. It hasn't been that effective, and it's something that I was really high on maybe 5 to 10 years ago. I'm not as high on AVVO right now. AVVO tried something that was pretty interesting. They went ahead and tried to match lawyers to clients. So they would go ahead and find clients, they would go and find lawyers, and they set up a matching service. The problem was AVVO was taking a piece of that. So they would charge a certain amount to set these two parties up, and the California Supreme Court and some other people saw that that was the unauthorized practice of law, in that they were coming in and getting a percentage of the fee, and so they went ahead and said no. I remember teaching this in class about 4 or 5 years ago, and I said, I'm not sure that this is legal. I wasn't sure one way or the other. And actually another professor was auditing my class or making sure that I was saying the right things in my class, and he came up afterwards and said he appreciated the fact that I told the class I wasn't sure how something was going to turn out. And I really wasn't. AVVO spent a lot of money on it, and it just, when the courts come in and said you can't do that, it really hurt them, and I don't think they've quite recovered yet. There's something called geofencing, and that is if you can go ahead and effectively, I look at it like you have an electric fence for a dog around a house where they bury the wire in the electric fence, and the dog knows can't go past out that. It's kind of the opposite effect in that when there's an electrical trigger around a particular, let's say a hospital, and you're a personal injury attorney, and you don't want to be called an ambulance chaser. Well, there's ways to do geofencing where you can geofence the hospital, and so anybody goes across that geofence and they're on their Wi-Fi there, and location services are on their phone, they'll start to get advertisements from PI lawyers inside the hospital. It's a pretty ingenious way of doing things, but in talking with people, it hasn't been that effective, surprisingly so. The return on investment isn't quite what they hoped it would be. There's several lawyers out there who feel very strongly that social media is not important as practicing law. It's not important for marketing as some people make it out to be. And they think that social media should rather be used to talk to people, to communicate with people, to let them know you have an expertise in a certain area. But my deal with that is find out what you're comfortable with, what works for you on social media and what doesn't work for you on social media. Let your kind of core personality come out, core values that we talked about in the first podcast, and let those kind of guide you as to how much you go into it. That's kind of important. So also, the thing I like about social media is that you can get reviews and you can get people to give recommendations. And so that's really important to our firm. Recommendations are important to our firm's reviews. 5-star reviews are important. And so the way we handle it in our firm is if we go ahead and work with a client for a while and we get the result for them that is a good result in the case, we ask them to give us a review. So we ask them, hey, if you feel like you've gotten 5-star service, will you please go ahead and give us a review? And most of the time they say they will. And we have a way to send out an email to them and follow up with a phone call just to remind them to do the review. Frankly, about 1 in 3 actually do the review. And that it's not a bad number. Most of the time we get 5-star reviews. I say most of the time, virtually every review we've had has been a 5-star review. I'm very proud of that. Recently, we got a 1-star review from a client, and there are ways to respond to 1-star reviews, and there's a way not to respond to 1-star reviews. And the way to respond to a 1-star review is if it's something where you can actually call the client, I would recommend that you do that immediately. Just pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I saw your review. The issue that you had was, in the first case, what it was an old medical expense that they say that we didn't pay after the case had settled. We always pay our clients' medical expenses out of the settlement, let the client know what's going on. In this particular case, the case settled for a substantial amount of money, and the medical expense was only $400. He was just frustrated that that wasn't paid for, and he was getting hounded from the hospital. So we went ahead and I called him immediately. The review went on at like 5 o'clock, and by 5:30, I called him because I have notices that ping me when a review comes up. And I told him, look, that $400, I will look at it. And I will tell you that when we had made a nice fee on your case, and I'm not going to let you hang out there with that. If we owe it, we'll get it paid, and I make sure we'll get it paid right away. You don't have to worry about it. Send me the bill. We'll get it worked out. And I said, we're real proud of the service that we provide, and I think we did a good job for you. He's like, yeah, you did a real good job for me. So I'm sorry that you're frustrated, and I apologize for that. And, we really value it. And I know you gave a 1-star review. He goes, don't worry about it. I already took it down. And so that's the way I think you respond to a 1-star review. We recently had one where a client couldn't get in touch with us, and she hasn't taken it down, but we did figure out what her issue was and work it out with her. She just was really frustrated and wants to leave it up, and that's her choice, and that's her prerogative, and you're going to have reviews like that every once in a while. And a friend of mine said you can't be 5-star because people don't think it's real. They think you're going in and flushing out all the bad stuff and just leaving it that way. And I kind of believe that. But anyways, that's what we had in our case. So we always ask at the end of the case whether or not you feel like you got 5-star service. Now, sometimes you have an end of a case where the result is decent, but the relationship with the client isn't quite as strong as you would hope it would be. In those cases, you've got to make a decision whether you're going to ask them to give you that or not. How not to respond to reviews. There was a classic example that I teach in my law practice management class where a lawyer responded to a 1-star review, and that lawyer just revealed all kinds of attorney-client information in that response. You didn't pay our bill. You lied to us. You told us X, Y, Z. I mean, terrible. And he actually got sued for that review, or for that response to that particular review. Ironically, that person now is running for state senate in Texas. So the question is, do you go into social media and do you advertise in social media as an attorney? And then the other question you have with social media is, how does that compare with your website? And what can you do with your website? So, for example, if you spend a bunch of time on social media, improving all of that, maybe doing some Facebook ads, doing some Google AdWords, or do you spend your time on your website and getting more information on your website so that people will visit it more? I think it's a balance. It's really just on Article Today on SEO, which is search engine optimization for your website. And that is where you get your website where Google likes it a lot, and where Google wants to put you at the first, up on the first page of particular searches. What I have learned with search engine optimization, what I have learned is content is king, and you have to put information on there. So people who do blogs routinely on there do very, very well in Google. And a friend of mine said the best way Google can help you is if you take your brain and all the information you have in your brain and you throw it onto Google in the form of blogs and in the form of postings, in the form of podcasts like I'm doing right now. You just dump your whole presence onto that. And you're thinking, well, wow, I'm giving away my work product. No, you're not giving away your work product. What we bring as lawyers is evaluating a new unique set of facts or a unique situation in a business and either preparing the paperwork necessary for the transaction to occur or analyzing those facts and finding all the unique issues with those facts and getting the best possible result for our client. Well, every case is different. The facts are different in every case, but there are, as you know, some fundamental issues of the law that are consistent in all these cases. So if you do a heavy brief, I just did one. You do a long, heavy brief on some heavy issues. Just pull out some of the research you did for some of those issues and put them into a blog. Put them into 2, 3, 4 blogs. Google loves that stuff. And the information that you're putting on your website relates directly to the type of cases you handled because this is a brief that you did. So go ahead and put on there. I knew an attorney who went and got some people, he was a criminal defense attorney, who got some people who were in the jail, people that he's represented before and got good deals for, to not only write him letters about their experience, about having to go through the criminal system, but also write letters about the lawyer. And he asked them to ask their friends to do it. And he started getting lots of letters, and he would contribute $10 to the account of the person who gave a letter, just so that they would have some incentive to do it. He started getting lots and lots of letters, and he just simply took those letters and put them on his webpage to talk about unique experiences, unique language, and his webpage just shot through the roof. So reviews are super important. Blogs are super important. Putting content on is super important. The social media gurus that are out there that'll tell you that they can put you on the first page of Google, no problem. You got to watch out for those people. I always say, okay, tell me your client. I want to see your client where you've put that particular client on the first page of Google. Most of them don't have anything that they can really come to you and tell you. And every once in a while, they'll give you some obscure search. Look up Hispanic patent attorneys in Arizona. And so you look that up and you go, see the number 3 right there? That Hispanic IP attorney is the one that we got there on the first page of Google. Well, there's only 3 Hispanic IP attorneys in that particular city, so anybody could have done that. And so you have to be careful about what those gurus do. There are lawyers out there who believe that social media is not important as the networking meal. I go back and forth on this. We of the older generation have said that we don't believe that if you have a friend that's online only, that's a real friend, that you have to actually see them in person. But we are getting convinced more and more that, in fact, people form genuine relationships online without even meeting each other, and COVID has exacerbated that to a great extent. The other issue is you can go ahead and set things up where you're getting lots of calls. You can spend money, you can use direct mail, Google AdWords, billboards, all the things that we talk about, but it doesn't mean that when the social media works that you're getting quality cases. So if you're having to sort through so much junk in order to find out whether your case is a good case, perhaps you should think about rearranging your social media campaign. Other things, you can be a follower on social media, but remember, you got to be careful about when you post, because anything you post is out there forever, and you have to remind your clients about them posting as well. One of the things I would recommend for lawyers is get a younger attorney or a younger law student to come in and be a social media intern, maybe for 3 months or 6 months. And their job is to go ahead and work on the SEO side of your website, but also to work on a social media campaign on some of the paid ads that we've talked about. Kind of give you an idea of how much these ads might cost for click. We did a search in 2020 about how much certain ads words cost. And so, for example, in Dallas, if you search truck accident attorney in Dallas, they have an ad for a truck accident attorney who is in Dallas, and you clicked on that ad would be $515. That's how much it would cost that attorney for one click. Now imagine if you got 10 people to do that search and to click on that ad. You just cost that lawyer $5,150. And there are stories of competitors out there who have contacted people to go ahead and clicked on other people's ads just to run up their costs. And that's obviously a dirty pool. Just as an idea, in 2020, the average cost of a Google AdWord across the board, all industries, everything, was $6.45. So the lawyer stuff is really, really high in terms of the cost of doing those type of things. So the AVVO profile, remember on that. The other kind of social media thing that I think is pretty good is if you're on listservs. If you're on a listserv and you want to go out there and get yourself out there, you can go in that listserv and start participating really hard. In the Texas Trial Lawyers Association has a listserv that I'm a member of. There are over 1,000 members on it. There are some people who are regular contributors who are awesome lawyers, and you feel real confident after having seen them post repeatedly over months that they're the kind of lawyer that you want to send a case to. And I think that's an area that you can look into as well. Other things you can do that are social media related, you can go, there's Techno Lawyer that's out there. You can submit information to them and they will post it out there for you. So those are kind of the rules on social media. And those are the ways to kind of handle it from a lawyer's point of view who doesn't really focus on it that much. It's something that if you're like me where you've got so much work and you're doing traditional advertising, you're doing traditional networking, and you're doing your passions and you're doing your hobbies and you're getting a lot of business coming in that's good business, you kind of forget about SEO and you kind of forget about pay-per-click. You can't do that. You're missing out on some really good things and you need to get out there and do it. So that's me. That's Jim Zeta. That's social media and marketing. Have a great day. Thanks.